There's a little cabin in the sky.
My name is Father Moses Berry. I live in the house that my great-grandparents built in 1875. My great-grandfather and grandmother built that house. My grandfather was born and raised in that house. My father was born and raised in that house. And I was born and raised in that house. So I consider myself to be an Ozarkian. I'm from the Ozark Mountains. That part of the Ozark Mountains is called the Upper South. There's a portion of America that was the Upper South. Missouri was a split state. One half was for the Confederacy and one was for the Union. So we were in the Confederacy side. I became Orthodox because I was tired of looking for something. I looked in the Buddhist faith, and I would dance with Dr. Samuel Lewis of the American Sufis under the Golden Gate Bridge in the park there in the 1960s. I was what you call a flower child. I still didn't find it. I was under Suzuki Roshi from the Zen Center in San Francisco. And it never worked. Never worked. There was always something inside me saying, I want some genuine Christianity. And it wasn't where I found it in the Protestant churches. They had their praise movements and they had all this kind of, music ministries that there's nothing wrong with music ministry, but they were all just trying to find something new, trying to look for something, a new expression of theatrical church. And so I didn't want that. I couldn't find it. And it wasn't until I was a grown man. I was 30 years old, 35 years old, before I found what I'd been looking for. I told a story earlier about how I came to know the Orthodox Church when I went to a church in Richmond, Virginia, St. Cyprian of Carthage. And I remember looking at the iconostasis and seeing icon of St. Moses the Black and one of St. Cyprian of Carthage on the opposite side beside the Mother of God. And I thought, oh my goodness, I have found it. I found it. Because they were black. And it wasn't so much that they were black that attracted me. I'm not, probably am that shallow, but I don't think I'm that shallow. And who'd want to cast their lot with someone who was so Afrocentric that it would alienate other people? But it seemed to be so inclusive. And so I confronted the priest after the service, and I said, why are you doing this? Why do you have those things here? Are you trying to appeal to people in your neighborhood of color? Is that why you're doing it? And he goes, oh no, these are new, these are reproductions of ancient icons. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'd never heard of such things. I looked around the room. There were icons of the saints of the Boxer Rebellion. There were icons of saints from Russia and India, Saint Johanan of India. And they had all these different saints. That was the God's garden that I've been looking for, that my mother told me about when I was young. She said, when I asked her why there were so many races, she said, because we're all flowers in God's garden. Couldn't find it. In the black church, I could only find one variety of flowers. In the white church, I could only find one variety of flowers. So I said, I don't want any of it. I don't want any of it. And I remember my friend, we were young, it was 1967, and we decided, let's go to the West Coast. We're farm boys. Let's go to the West Coast and see what they're doing out there. They're having this Monterey Pop Festival. We ought to go to it. So we went out there, couldn't find it there. And I just said, about giving up. And I met a group of people who were non-denominational New Age Christians. And that seemed to be the answer for me. Not the theology, but the love that they shared with one another. That's the only thing that attracted me to them. That everybody wanted to be the other person's brother. Some of those people from that brotherhood that I'm telling you about, over 20 of them, have become priests, deacons, and nuns and monks in the Orthodox Church, Mother Catherine being one of them. And, so I thought I had found this thing, this brotherly love, but that also was starting to wear thin because there was no theology that I could appreciate. I went along with it, but it sounded like, New Age Hinduism, with a Christian slant. And so I couldn't find it. It wasn't until after I'd been to that church that I mentioned that I decided from this point on, no catechism, no nothing. From this point on, I'm Orthodox. I've found it. And I didn't know that I would have to jump through so many hoops. I was willing to it because I had bought the whole field, as the scripture says, for the pearl of great price that was planted in the middle. I bought the whole field, lock, stock, and barrel. Insults, hard times. I bought them, all of it. I remember one point, during my Orthodox life, after I had become part of the Orthodox Church, I was at a gathering of people, and they were white priests, and they said, insulting things, not to me, but they think, we can say this in front of him. He's just one of us. He's a good old boy. Nigger jokes. And I was so frustrated that I went to see my spiritual father, Father Roman Braga, of blessed memory. Some say he's a saint. Just told me that just a while ago. A couple of people did. Our bishop told me that. And I knew he would feel bad for me. He was so gentle with me. I knew he'd feel bad, and he would give me a little consolation, maybe touch my brow and say, it's okay. Those were just goofy people, Father. And instead he said, Father Moses, what are you going to do when the communists come? And I was cut to the quick because I knew that thing I was doing was only a game. It was only a game that I had trapped myself in and agreed to be brokenhearted over, when in fact, I wasn't really. And it just took a word from a person of his stature to say to me, this is nothing. This is he was in the prison camps under Ceausescu. He was in the prison camps for, I don't know, I think it was 7 years or 11 years. Can't recall at the moment. But so he looks at those kind of insults as nothing. St. Moses was a lawless man. And he reminded me of the icon of unexpected joy, which says, there once was a lawless man who every day would go before the icon of the Mother of God and say, Hail Mary, full of grace. The Lord is with you. Ask your son to forgive my sins. She said, I'll do it. And one day he came after many times, this pattern, and he saw there were nail prints in the arms and hands, rather, and side and feet of Jesus. And he says, what does this mean? The baby Jesus. And she says, oh, every time you make promise to me and don't fulfill that promise, you re-crucify my son. So the good news, the joy, unexpected joy, is not that he saw such a horrible thing. The good news that he was startled into trying to please God from that point on. So I knew about St. Moses, and I wanted to be like him. I read the Paradise of the Holy Fathers, which was, which I think is out of print, Lives of Saints now. And I just fell in love with all those desert fathers, and especially St. Moses, because I thought we had some attraction. He's black, I'm black. He was a crook, I'm a crook. Same thing. So when that old Russian monk was about to baptize me, he said, have you considered a name? Baptismal name? And I said, yeah, Moses. He'll give me that name. And he started laughing. And he said, you're nothing like St. Moses. St. Moses was humble and you're verbose. St. Moses was a good guy. Looked out for every man. You look out for yourself. I don't think so. And then he said, the only way I could possibly give you that name, if your name day was 8 days after, on the feast of St. Moses, then you can have that name. And he said, when were you born? I said, August 20th. He said, August 28th, new calendar feast day of St. Moses, because you can have that name. So I went, oh my goodness, I now understand it has nothing to do with race. I understand it has nothing to do with anything on this earth. It has to do with otherworldly sanctity. And if I'm not ready to at least try and be like St. Moses, not in his blackness, I already got that, but in his otherworldliness. I thought of St. Moses when he was once asked of the people at Sketis, the monastery of Petra. They asked him to come and judge a brother who had committed some offense against the monastery. And he refused to come for a while, and then he decided to come, and he had a sack over his back with a hole in the bottom of it. And it was it confounded the brethren. And they said, what are you doing? He said, I go forth to judge another, and my own sins drip behind me like grains of sand. And the brothers did no longer accuse that we judge other people, and we say to them, oh my goodness, they're such a mess. And people say to me, oh, Father Moses, you're so nice. You're so this and that. I don't know what I've done. Done everything from toting guns to shooting at people being shot at. So what you see is not what you think you see, because all those things are part of who I am. So we can, as I said earlier, from Phyllis Wheatley's poem, "'Twas grace that taught my soul to pray. 'Twas grace that made my benighted souls to shine. So remember, Christian people, even darkies as black as Cain may become refined and join the angelic train." So this is what we do when we see our brother. Well, we think we see him, we know nothing about him. Actually, it was a phrase that was coined by Malcolm X. Christianity is a white man's religion. That's what he said. So many people from the 60s were attracted to that. And it's carried over even into this very day. And so it's not a white man's religion. If anything, it's a black man's religion. But the problem is the way that people express themselves in the white community, even in the Orthodox community, towards African American people, make it, a white man's religion. So, I've looked for years. I was couldn't wait for another priest to come along who was black. And all of a sudden they started coming. I was an old guy by then. Father Paul Abernathy was in seminary, and they came down to our church, and they converted, and Father Turbo did the same thing, and all these people are now Orthodox clergy. Some people don't know that they need to be saved. And until that time comes, there's not much you can do. You must always keep an eye out, keep an eagle eye out for somebody that impresses you as being receptive to the faith. Because not everyone is. Some people are on the goat side, and some people are on the sheep side. I don't know which side I'm on yet, but people are on those sides. And so you can't really preach to the goat who doesn't want to hear it. But keep your eye out for the lamb. And they're not in groups, they're in individuals. Keep your eye out when you're in the grocery store and say, Lord, impress upon me who it is that I might evangelize. And you'll see somebody. And maybe it'll just be a nod of the head, or maybe it'll just be a smile or a glance. And then you can take advantage of that and say, aha, there's an opening. There's a crack in the door. Wish I can slip my flyer in. There's a weeping icon, a miraculous icon of the Mother of God, St. Anna, with the Mother of God on her lap at St. Tikhon's Monastery. And the abbot of the monastery came down and brought that icon. It's a big icon. Brought it down to my bedside. And I couldn't look at it. Her garments were so glittery, so gold. I'd seen that icon many days, visited our church before, and I couldn't see it. And it was so gleaming. And the next day, that day I was on 10 liters of oxygen. The next day I was on 3 uterus oxygen. The next day they said you can go home. After I'd been there for all the time. So there's more to life than meets the eye. There's things beyond our vision that influence us, such as icons and such as demons, such as angels. Time is getting late. I was in the hospital for 3.5 months, and everybody thought I was going to die. The doctors told my wife to call the children. The children came home, and the whole time that I was there, I was wrestling with and troubled by the things that I had left undone, that I didn't have to leave undone. So I would tell people, take advantage of the day and do the things that you can do today, even if the task is hard, even if you have to sacrifice yourself, do the things that you know are pleasing to God. But then, because one day the nurse came in and she said, "We're going to have to take your legs off, Mr. Berry. The physician's coming down." I went, "Oh my gosh, whatever will I do?" Then I thought of a Cat Stevens song that says, "If I ever lose my legs, I won't have to walk no more." So no matter what hardship that we have to face, we still are responsible for bringing the good news to our brothers and sisters. Yeah, don't be ashamed. Don't be shy. You don't have much time. You don't know what time you have. I thought I was out of time.
And if I ever lose my legs, I won't moan and I won't beg. Oh, if I ever lose my legs, oh, I won't have to walk.